Srimad Bhagavatam comes to knowledge.
Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Janmadhyasya setam vayaritartas chati swabhigya swara. Tinna brahmarudaya adhika vayemo jantija suraya. Tejo varimnida jata vinimayo jatra trisargomrisya. Dhamna svena sada nirasta kuhakam satyang param dhimahi.
O my Lord, Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva.
O my Lord, Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva.
O all-pervading personality of Godhead.
O all-pervading personality of Godhead.
For my respectful obeisances unto you.
Offer my respectful obeisances unto you.
I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth.
I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth.
And the primeval cause of all causes.
And the primeval cause of all causes.
Of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of manifested universes.
Of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of manifested universes.
He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations.
He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations.
And he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him.
And he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him.
It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji.
It is the only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji.
The original living being.
The original living being.
By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion.
By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion.
As one is bewildered by the illusory representation.
As one is bewildered by the illusory representations.
Of water seen on fire or land seen on water.
Of water seen on fire or land seen on water.
Only because of him do the material universes.
Only because of him do the material universes.
Temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature.
Temporarily manifested by the reaction of the three modes of nature.
Appear factual, although they are unreal.
Appear factual, although they are unreal.
Therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna.
Therefore I meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna.
Who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode.
Who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode.
Which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world.
Which is forever free from the illusory representation of the material world.
I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth.
I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth.
Dharma projita kaitravotra.
Dharma prajita kaitavotra.
Paramo nirmatsaranam satam.
Paramo nirmatsaranam satam.
Vedyam vastavam atravastu.
Vedyam vastavam atravastu.
Vedam tapa trayam murana.
Shivadam taputrayam lanam.
Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite.
Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite.
Kim va parir Ishvaraha.
Kim va parir Ishvaraha.
Sadyo hridi avarudya tetra.
Sadyo rudya avarudya tetra.
Kriti bihi sususubhistakshanat.
Kriti bihi sususubhistakshanat.
Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated.
Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated.
This Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth.
This Bhagavad Puran propounds the high truth.
Which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart.
Which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in the heart.
The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all.
The highest truth, the reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all.
Such truth uproots the threefold miseries.
Such truth uproots the threefold miseries.
This beautiful Bhagavatam compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity.
This is a beautiful Bhagavatam compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity.
Is sufficient in itself for God realization.
It's sufficient itself for God realization.
What is the need of any other scripture?
What is the need of the other scripture?
As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam.
As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam.
By this culture of knowledge.
By this culture of knowledge.
The Supreme Lord is established within his heart.
The Supreme Lord is established within his heart.
Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam.
Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam.
Sukamukad amrita dravya sangitam.
Sukamukad amrita dravya sangitam.
Pibata Bhagavatam rasam alayam.
Pibata Bhagavatam rasam alayam.
Muhur ahoraska bhuvibavukaha.
Muhur ahorasika bhuvibavukaha.
O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam.
O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam.
The mature fruit of the desired tree of Vedic literatures.
The mature fruit, the desired tree of Vedic literature.
It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami.
It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami.
Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful.
Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful.
Although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all.
although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all,
including liberated souls.
including liberated souls.
Shinvatam Swakata Krishna.
Sambhatam Swakata Krishna.
Punya Shravana Kirtana.
Punya Shravana Kirtana.
Hiryantaksto Hiyapadrani.
Vidyantasto Hiyabhadrani.
Vidunoti Suhitsatam.
Vidunoti Suritsatam.
To hear about Krishna from Vedic literatures,
To hear about Krishna from Vedic literatures,
or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad-gītā,
or to hear from it directly through the Bhagavad-gītā,
is itself righteous activity.
it is self-righteous activity.
And for one who hears about Krishna,
And for one who hears about Krishna,
Lord Krishna is dwelling in everyone's heart,
Lord Krishna is dwelling within everyone's heart,
acts as a best wishing friend,
acts as the best wishing
and
friend,
purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him.
and purifies the devotee who is constantly engaged in hearing with him.
Nasta presu abhadresu
Nasta Praishva Bhadreshu
nityam bhagavata sevaya
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
bhagavati uttamasloke
Bhagavati Uttamasloki
bhaktir bhavati naistaki.
Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki.
In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge.
In this way, the devotee naturally develop dormant transcendental
As he
knowledge.
hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam
As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam
and from the devotees,
and from the devotees,
he becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord.
becomes fixed in devotional service of the Lord.
Tadarajastamo bhava
Tadarajastamo bhava
kamalobadayaschaye
Kamalopasdayachaye
cheta etarjanavidam
Chete etarna vidam
stitvam sattve prasidati.
Stitam sarve prasidhati.
By development of devotional service,
By development of devotional service,
one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance,
one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance.
and thus material lust and avarice are diminished.
And thus material lust and avarice are diminished.
Evam prasana manaso
Evam prasna manas
Bhagavad Bhakti-yoga
Bhagavad bhakti-yoga
Bhagavad Tattva Vijnanam
Bhagavad tattva vijnanam
Sangasya Jayate.
Mukta sangasya jayate.
When these impurities are wiped away,
When these impurities are wiped away,
the candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness,
the candidate remains steady in the position of pure goodness,
becomes enlivened by devotional service,
becomes enlivened by devotional service,
and understands the science of God perfectly.
and understands the science of God perfectly.
Vidyate Hridaya Grantis
Vidhyate hridaya grantis
Chidyante Sarvasamsaya
Chidyante sarvasamshaya
Siyante Chasyakarmani
Jiyante sachakarmani
Justa Evatmanishware.
Dusta ivatmanishvari.
Thus, Bhakti Yoga severs the hard knot of material affection
Thus the bhakti yoga severs the hard knot of material
and enables
affection,
one to come at once to the stage of a samsayam samagram,
and enables to come at one to the stage of assumption,
understanding of the supreme absolute truth personality of Godhead.
understanding the supreme absolute truth personality of Godhead.
Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee
Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotees
in Krishna
in
consciousness
Krishna consciousness
can one understand the science of Krishna.
can one understand the science of Krishna.
Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 18, text number 34. Brahmanai Kshatrabandhurhi
Brahmane Shabandhuhi
Griha Palo Nirupita
Griya Palo Nirutpita
Sakatam Tad Grihe Dvasta
Sakantham Tadgiye Dvasta
Sabandam Bhoktumarhati
Sabhandam Bhoktum Arasti
Arhati.
Arati.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The descendants of the kingly orders are definitely designated as watchdogs, and they must keep themselves at the door. Oh, what grounds can dogs enter the house and claim to dine with the master in the same plate? Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The inexperienced brāhmana boy certainly knew that the king asked for water from his father, and the father did not respond. He tried to explain away his father's inhospitality in an impertinent manner befitting an uncultured boy. He was not at all sorry for the king's not being well received. On the contrary, he justified the wrong act in a way characteristic of the Brahmanas of Kaliyuga. He compared the king to a watchdog. And so it was wrong for the king to enter the home of a brāhmana and ask for water from the same pot. Whoa. The dog is certainly reared by its master, but that does not mean that the dog shall claim to dine and drink from the same pot. This mentality of false prestige is the cause of downfall of the perfect social order. And we can see that in the beginning it was started by the inexperienced son of a brāhmana. As the dog is never allowed to enter within the room and hearth, although it is reared by the master, similarly, according to Sringi, the king had no right to enter the house of Samika Rishi. According to the boy's opinion, the king was on the wrong side and not his father, and thus he justified his silent father. Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavani Ki Jai. So this is very damning for followers of Sringi. And it's implied here that those followers are modern brahmanas in Kali Yuga. I'm not sure if it refers to every one of them, or most of them, or some of them, but it definitely refers to what's called the downfall of the Brahmana caste in the age of Kali. So, Prabhupada touches on some very, very profound and sensitive points in this purport. He says, the mentality of false prestige is the cause of downfall of the perfect social order. And we can see that in the beginning it was started by the inexperienced son of a brāhmana. So, what did the inexperienced son of a brāhmana do? Well, he acted inappropriately without getting permission from his father, who was acting like his guru, or not getting information or validation of what he was thinking of doing from some spiritual authority or Shiksha and Diksha gurus. He just acted on his own, thinking that whatever reasoning he had was the valid reasoning to punish the king. So this is a perfect example of false prestige, of being puffed up, of being overconfident that everything one may think is valid. That's why Prabhupada says in his letters that the disciples should always ask permission of the spiritual master before they act. That doesn't mean you have to ask the spiritual master permission to go to the toilet. But it means whenever there's some important decision that you're making in your life, you should ask Guru, Shiksha or Diksha Guru, what they think about that decision. So, Yasya Prasadat Bhagavat Prasadat. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one gets the benediction of Krishna. Without the mercy of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. This is a very important verse, and we sing it every morning. And we should understand what it means. Spiritual life is one of being very careful to always follow Krishna's instructions as given by spiritual masters and acharyas. So here we see that when we don't do that, that's a sign of being overconfident and having this disease of false prestige, which is the cause of downfall, falling down again into the cycle of birth and death, old age and disease. So the cause of downfall of the perfect social order, and we can see that in the beginning it was started by the inexperienced son of a brāhmana. So he was thinking, look, the dog can stand guard outside the door of the master, but he's never allowed to enter within the room and hearth. The hearth is where the family, as we explained yesterday, come together and they cook food, and then they respect the food, and then they have discussions, and there's a passage of culture from the elders to the younger generation. That's the hearth. So, not heart, but hearth, H-E-A-R-T-H. So it says that as the dog is never allowed to enter within the room and hearth, although it is reared by the master, similarly, according to Sringi, the king had no right to enter the house of Samika Rishi. According to the boy's opinion, the king was on the wrong side and not his father, and thus he justified his silent father. Well, when it means it justified his silent father, it means that he operated justice in the name of his father without getting his father's permission. So that means he's not bona fide. He didn't get validation. So this is the problem of being inexperienced. We jump to conclusions too fast when we're inexperienced, and we convince ourselves that those immature decisions are the truth, and then we act and get into a lot of trouble. However, I don't know exactly what was the age of Sringi, but usually a child is not responsible for their acts until they're 14 years old. So it does say here that the boy was going to be excused for the mistake he made because he was young and inexperienced, even though it was a horrible mistake. And Maharaj Pariksit had the power to overcome his Sringi's curse, but he accepted it rather as the mercy of the Lord, knowing that the Lord is the supreme controller and nothing can happen unless the Lord ordains it. Now this is explained even in more detail. Just explain in more detail. Let's see where it is. Okay, so there are three things that keep us really conditioned to suffer. They are kāla, karma, and guṇa. Kāla, which means time. Time is Krishna. Time I am the destroyer of the worlds. Everything is controlled by time. Our life is controlled by time. Our actions are controlled by time. Then there's guṇa, the modes of material nature, and then there's karma from previous life. So, Prabhupada writes that even if we are able to do something temporarily beneficial, time will see that the good project is frustrated in course of time. The only thing possible to be done is to get rid of eternal time, kāla, which is compared to kāla sarpa, or the cobra snake, whose bite is always lethal. No one can be saved from the bite of a cobra. The best remedy for getting out of the clutches of the cobra-like kāla, or its integrity, the modes of nature. So what does that mean in its integrity? That means completely. You can completely get rid of the snake bite of the cobra of time forever. And then also get rid of the modes of nature, And the only way to do that, the best remedy, is bhakti-yoga, as it is recommended in the Bhagavad-gītā 14:26. Mamchayo vibhicārena bhakti-yogena sevate sagunam samatityaitam brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in devotional service and never falls down under any circumstance is at once liberated from the modes of material nature and comes to the position of brāhmaṇa, or transcendental position. So, the highest perfectional project of philanthropic activities is to engage everyone in the act of preaching bhakti-yoga all over the world, because that alone can save people from the control of maya, or the material nature represented by kāla, karma, and guṇa, as described above. The Bhagavad-gītā 14:26 confirms this definitely. Okay, so we see this is a serious statement. It's actually meant to help us. Sometimes we receive a warning, don't you dare do this again. Well, if a person is intelligent, they'll take the warning. Just like if the police stop you and say, put your hands up where I can see them, don't move. Now lay down very slowly with your arms extended, and you don't listen, you know what they do? They can shoot you and kill you if you don't listen. And that's happening every day in this country. People think, well, I don't have to listen to what they say. Or if they put their hand in their pocket as if they're going to pull a gun out, or if they go to their car and try and stick their hand through the window to grab something, or they try and open their trunk. The police don't know what they're going to grab. It could be a gun, it could be a knife. And if they show it, then immediately they shoot. And every day people are dying like that, because before people would listen to what the police say. Nowadays there are some people, not everybody, who don't listen to what they say, and they get killed. So in the same way, if we don't listen to what Krishna says, guess what happens? We can get killed. We can be forced to take birth again. That's worse than just being killed. Because people think, well, if I'm killed, then, it's all over. No way. It's only beginning at that point. Because you have to start all over again, but this time it could be with a tail and 4 legs. Or it could be a caterpillar with 1,000 legs. Or it could be a worm in stool. So why take such a chance? So Prabhupada says also about this. He says, we must know for certain that the particular position in which we are now set up is an arrangement of the Supreme Will, meaning Krishna, in terms of our own acts in the past. The Supreme Lord is present as the localized Paramatma in the heart of every living being. And it is said in the Bhagavad-gītā 13:23, and therefore he knows everything of our activities in every stage of our lives. Upadasthana Martha cha Bharta Bhokta Maheswara Paramatmiti Chapiyukte Dehesmin Purukshat Puran. That's 13:23. Let me just check that to make sure. 13:23. Yes. And that says that yet in this body there is another transcendental enjoyer who is the Lord, the Supreme Proprietor, who exists as the overseer and permitter, and who is known as the Super Soul. So, therefore, he rewards the reactions of our actions by placing us in some particular place. A rich man gets his son born with a silver spoon in his mouth, but the child who came as the rich man's son deserves such a place, and therefore he is placed there by the will of the Lord. And at a particular moment when the child has to be removed from that place, he is also carried by the will of the Supreme, even if the child or the father does not wish to be separated from the happy relation. The same thing happens in the case of a poor man also. Neither rich man nor poor man has any control over such meetings or separations of living beings. The example of a player and his playthings should not be misunderstood. That's in the verse. As a player sets up and disperses his playthings according to his own sweet will, so the supreme will of the Lord brings men together and separates them. The example of a player and his playthings should not be misunderstood. One may argue that since the Lord is bound to award the reactionary results of our own actions, the example of a player cannot be applied. But it is not so. We must always remember that the Lord is the supreme will, and he is not bound by any law. Generally, the law of karma is that one is awarded the result of one's own actions. But in special cases, by the will of the Lord, such resultant actions are changed also. But this change can be effected only by the will of the Lord. This change can be effected by the will of the Lord only, and no other. Therefore, the example of the player cited in this verse is quite appropriate, for the supreme will is absolutely free to do whatever he likes, and because he is all perfect, there is no mistake in any of his actions or reactions. These changes of resultant actions are especially rendered by the Lord when a pure devotee is involved. It is assured in the Bhagavad-gītā 9:30 and 9:31 that the Lord saves a pure devotee who has surrendered unto him without reservation from all sorts of reactions of sins. And there's no doubt about this. There are hundreds of examples of reactions changed by the Lord in the history of the world. If the Lord is able to change the reactions of one's past deeds, then certainly he is not himself bound by any action or reaction of his own deeds. He is perfect and transcendental. Wow, now this is an amazing statement by Srila Prabhupada that we should take very, very seriously, because it means that everybody has a chance to get free from the clutches of Maya, from the influence of kāla, karma, and guṇa. These three things are oppressing us. And Krishna can do anything he wants. He's not controlled. He's not bound by any law, by any custom or habit or anything like that. He's completely independent. So the only thing that Krishna gives special attention to, he gives attention to everyone. He's supplying food right now to demons as well as devotees and everyone in between. But he gives special attention to his devotees, which is normal. If your house was on fire and your neighbor's kid and your kid are in the house, if you run into the house, who would you look for first? Who would you look for? Yeah, look for your kids first. So in the same way, it's normal that Krishna gives special attention to his devotee, although he's equal to everyone, but yet he has a special feeling for his devotee. Why? Because the devotee is completely surrendered to him. And as we discussed before, the devotee is totally, it does not consider himself or herself independent. They consider that they are completely dependent on the mercy of the Lord, and they act like that. For example, the demons, Prabhupada says, the whole material world is moving on this false attempt of becoming independent of the laws of nature. What are the laws of nature? Kāla, karma, and guṇa. Now, how are you going to become free of these things? That everyone, every living entity, from the microbe to Brahma, is controlled by them. Right? When you go into higher planets, the control might be a little bit less because of the mode of goodness. But still, even Brahma is subject to death. See? So everyone is controlled by these things. The only way to get out of this horrible control is by pure devotional service. So Prabhupada says, the whole material world is moving on this false attempt of becoming independent of the laws of nature. What do you think science is all about? Modern science is all about trying to get independent from the laws of nature. Don't believe in God. Don't believe that everything is predetermined or anything like that. You have karma from a previous life. There was no previous life. There's only one life, and when you die, it's all over. But while you're living, we must control nature, because that's also interfering with our sense gratification. Yeah. But are they succeeding? Like, for example, they have so many birth control techniques. Is the population of the world going down, or is it increasing? It's increasing. They have so many medicines and vaccinations and therapies, and there's pancha karma, and this thing and that thing, natural therapies, artificial therapies, everything. Has it stopped people from dying? No way. People are dying every day. See? So they think they can control nature through science. No, you can't. You can't control nature. You can't control the kāla and guṇa and karma. I have a friend of mine, he has a company, and it's he makes specialized probiotics according to your body. And in order to qualify, you have to send him your stool. You have to poop in some jar and send it to his company. And then they analyze your stool. Well, that's what dogs do, don't they? When a dog meets another dog, what do? They start smelling the butt of the other dog, and the other dog smells the butt of the first dog. They're analyzing the stool to see where you're at, where the dog is at. So, yeah, and then once they analyze your stool, then they say, well, you need, so much acidophilus and so much bifidus, and so on. They're like 30,000 probiotics, right? So they make a special blend specifically for what they read from your stool, and it costs $1,500 a month for the rest of your life to keep you alive, so you don't die. Now, do you believe it? Do you think someone can keep you alive forever for $1,500 a month? That's a bunch of nonsense. Yeah, maybe your health will be a little bit better, but it's not going to stop you from dying. And their motto is that death is optional. In other words, it means if you want to die, okay, that's your choice. But if you don't want to die, give us $1,500 a month for the rest of your life, and we'll keep analyzing your stool. That's comforting, isn't it? You have someone to analyze your stool every month. The whole thing is nonsense. But yet, people want to control nature. So that's what Bhagavatam says. The whole material world is moving on this false attempt of becoming independent of the laws of nature. Beginning from Ravana, who wanted to prepare a direct staircase to the planets of heaven, down to the present age, they are trying to overcome the laws of nature. They are trying now to approach distant planetary systems by electronic mechanical power. But the highest goal of human civilization is to work hard under the guidance of the Lord and become completely dependent on Him. Wait a minute. This is the complete opposite of what they're talking about. They're saying we can become independent, right? But he's saying the solution to the whole thing, the whole problem is birth and death and sickness and old age, is to become completely dependent on the Lord. The highest achievement of perfect civilization is to work with valor, meaning courage and energy, but at the same time depend completely on the Lord. This is a motto that we should put this up on the wall. Okay, Prabhu, it's your service. Put this one up on the wall. This is Bhagavad-gītā 1.8.37. 1.8.37. And he says, the highest goal of human civilization. You know, every time we put one of these things up on the wall, somebody takes it down, right? But maybe we should put it up so high that they can't reach it. You know? Anyway, you should make not more than one copy. So every time they take it down, you put it back up again. All right. The highest goal of human civilization is to work hard under the guidance of the Lord, meaning the Lord and his representatives like Siksha and Diksha Gurus, and become completely dependent on him. The highest, the Pandavas were the ideal executors of the standard of civilization. They were the example, and they were the ones who put it into effect. That is, what? What are we talking about? Depending completely on the Lord. He calls this the standard of civilization. Standard of civilization. Those who are trying to become independent are not civilized. They're acting like lower than animals, because the animals are controlled and they're dependent on the Lord. But these people are lower than that. Yeah. Undoubtedly, they were completely dependent on the goodwill of Lord Sri Krishna, but they were not idle parasites of the Lord. In other words, they're not lazy bums. They worked hard, but they depended completely on the Lord. They were all highly qualified both by personal character and by physical activities. Still, they always looked for the mercy of the Lord because they knew that every living being is dependent by constitutional position. Now, we explained what that means. Constitutional position. That's the definition of what you can do and what you cannot do. It's your eternal position. You can't change it. We are all dependent on the Lord. We are all, we can never be equal to or greater than the Lord. Our constitutional position is to listen to the instructions of Krishna, and those same instructions come through parampara to Siksha and Diksha Gurus today. That same instruction. What is that? Sarvadharmam purityaja mamekam saranam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshisyami ma suchaha. Krishna is promising you that if you always engage in the service and never failingly, then you become free from your previous karma. And you have nothing to fear, nothing to doubt, nothing to hesitate for. And manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyajimam namaskru mami vaisasi satyam te pratijane priyosime. You become very dear to Krishna, or we become very dear to Krishna, if we are always thinking of him, manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji, worshipping him, mam vaisasi satya, and always manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji, become his devotee, worship him, namaskuru, and offer all our homage and respect and love to him. If we do this, then we become free. He will protect us from our previous karma, and therefore we become dear to him. So, this is the standard of civilization. Undoubtedly, they were, the Pandavas, completely dependent on the goodwill of Lord Sri Krishna, but they were not idle parasites of the Lord. They were all highly qualified both by personal character and by physical activities. Still, they always looked for the mercy of the Lord because they knew that every living being is dependent by constitutional position. The perfection of life is therefore to become dependent on the will of the Lord instead of becoming falsely independent in the material world. Those who try to become falsely independent of the Lord are called anatta, or without any guardian, whereas those who are completely dependent on the will of the Lord are called sanata, or those having someone to protect them. Therefore, we must try to be sanata so that we can always be protected by the unfavorable condition of material existence. By the deluding power of the external material nature, we forget that the material condition of life is the most undesirable perplexity or confusion. The Bhagavad-gītā therefore directs us in 7.19 that after many, many births, one fortunate person becomes aware of the fact that Vasudeva is all in all, or Krishna is all in all, and that the best way of leading one's life is to surrender unto him completely, That is the sign of a Mahatma. But you understand, surrendering completely doesn't mean you become, what is the word Prabhupada uses, an idle parasite. No. You have to be active. And what is the best activity? Is to spread the knowledge of bhakti-yoga all over the world. Right? You have to be active. If you can't do it all over the world, you do it in your neighborhood. If you can't do it in your neighborhood, you do it in your family. If you can't even do that, then you do it to yourself. Right? Maybe you can train your dog. Who knows? Dogs sometimes listen. Right? So, by the deluding power of the external material nature, we forget that the material condition of life is the most undesirable perplexity. The Bhagavad-gītā therefore directs us, 7:19, that after many, many births, one fortunate person becomes aware of the fact that Vasudeva is all in all, and that the best way of leading one's life is to surrender unto him completely. That is the sign of a Mahatma. All the members of the Pandava family were Mahatmas in household life. Oh, okay, that means you can become a Mahatma even in being a householder, being a Grihastha. Maharaj Yudhisthira was the head of the Mahatmas, and Queen Kunti Devi was the mother. The lessons of the Bhagavad-gītā and all the Puranas, specifically the Bhagavata Purana or Srimad Bhagavatam, are therefore inevitably connected with the history of the Pandava Mahatmas. For them, separation from the Lord was just like the separation of a fish from water. Srimati Kunti Devi therefore felt such separation like a thunderbolt, and the whole prayer of the queen is to try to persuade the Lord to stay with them. After the battle of Kurukshetra, although the inimical kings were killed, their sons and grandsons were still there to deal with the Pandavas. It is not only the Pandavas who were put into the condition of enmity, but all of us are always in such a condition, and the best way of living is to become completely dependent on the will of the Lord and thereby overcome all difficulties of material existence. Hey, 1:8:37. That's enough information there to free any of us from all problems of material life. And how is it that we're not taking it? Because we've been conditioned to think that science is going to save us, that the vaccine is going to save you, that science will solve the riddle of death, that death will be optional. All this is nonsense. It's all about being independent. But our constitutional position is to be dependent. So why should we submit ourselves to this type of information, giving us false hope that we'll be independent? If we follow the rules and regulations of spiritual life and are completely dependent on Krishna, guess what? Krishna promises to protect you. Now, that doesn't mean we go up to the zoo and we go up to the cage of the lion and climb into it and say, open your mouth. I'm going to stick my head in your mouth so that I can prove to everyone that Krishna's going to protect me. No. That would be foolish, right? But some people do that. They say, well, Krishna's going to protect me. I can do anything. And I can go step outside on the wing of the airplane while it's flying at 30,000 feet and nothing's going to happen to me. That's a bunch of nonsense, you see. But if we follow the rules and regulations, and the rules and regulations doesn't say walk out on the wing of the airplane. It doesn't say that. It doesn't say stick your head in the mouth of the lion. It doesn't say. It says get up early every day. Come to Mangal Arati. Perform Tulsi Arati. Listen to the class. Have darshan of the deities. Take the prasadam and respect it. And now, do whatever else you have to do to maintain yourself. But then come back again at night, do the same thing. And then go to bed early and then start all over the next day. You have to follow sadhana bhakti. That's what your duty is. You don't have to put your head into the mouth of the lion. You don't have to walk out on the wing of the Boeing 777. What you have to do, though, is what you promised to do. Follow the regulative principles chant minimum 16 good rounds a day and follow all the regulative principles. So this is very simple. Very simple. And then we become sanata, under the protection of the Lord. But if we don't do it, then we are anatta, without a guardian, without a protector. We're out in la-la land. And anything can happen in la-la land. You ever been in la-la land, Prabhu? No? I've been there. I don't want to go back. Believe me. Okay, we'll stop right there. Are there any questions? Yeah, come up to the microphone. Huh?
So Maharaj, you explained in this verse about the complete dependent on
the Lord.
On the Lord. So
like the Pandavas.
Sorry?
Like the Pandavas. You see, there's an example of it. The Pandavas were completely dependent on the Lord.
Okay. So for the grahasthas, I mean, yes, but for the grahasthas doing...
Pandavas were Mahatma Grahasthas. That means you can be a Mahatma Grahastha also. All you have to do is, Krishna, you are everything for me. And whatever you say, that's what I'm going to do. And I can understand what you're saying by referring to Shiksha and Diksha Gurus. I'm not going to imagine that you just told me to stab my wife in my dream. That's not what I'm going to do. Well, maybe I might do it, but if the Shiksha and Diksha Guru says that's valid. But believe me, they're not going to say that.
Yeah, so in short, like follow the regulative principles strictly means...
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah. No, but those regulative principles, let me tell you what the regulative principles are. Now, I'm not going to say no meat eating, gambling. Listen to what Krishna says the regulative principles are. He says, Prasade sarva dukhanam hanir asyo pajayate prasana chetaso hiyasu buddhi parya vatistate. He says, I'm sorry, we're going to read one verse before that first. Raga dvesa vimuktais tu vishayan indriyascharan atmavaistya videyatma prasadam adhigacchati. But a person free from all attachment and aversion or hatred, and able to control his senses through regulative principles of freedom, can obtain the complete mercy of the Lord. So the regulative principles are real swaraj. Freedom. You're free. You're free from what? Kāla, karma, and guṇa. Who's not free of Kāla, karma, and guṇa? People who don't follow the regulative principles. Don't chant Hare Krishna. Anything they do, it's going to be defeated. But you follow the regulative principles of freedom. And the Sanskrit is Raga dvesa vimuktaistu. So, you're free from attachment and detachment. And you're free from sense objects. And you're able to control the senses, bring them under control, including the mind, by following the regulated principles of freedom. Then you get prasadam. Prasadam adhigacchati. You get the mercy of the Lord. There it is. Bhagavad-gītā, 2nd chapter, verse 64. This is your verse. Then you become Mahatma Grihastha. Any other question? Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
You want to be Mahatma Grihastha. There you go.
In the
2nd chapter, 64th verse, Bhagavad-gītā.
Yeah. So in the complete independence, most of the time in grahasthashram, basically, both husband and wife, is it practical to do that? Because based on the examples what we have, most of the saints or whoever is like, either their wife is not able to reach to the goal of complete independence, but most of the saints may reach it. It might be because of their attachment to the family, or if both, I haven't seen, at least, I don't know any example of both husband and wife, they reached to that.
Wait a minute, Pandavas were all married. They were all married men. They were not sannyasis. They were all married. They all had wives.
Yeah, they have wives.
Hey, Krishna has many wives.
No, Krishna is
And he's got many girlfriends
I'm
also.
talking about the normal people.
Well, no, Pandavas are normal people like you and me in the sense that they're married, they have responsibilities, they have to pay taxes or they exact taxes. You know, I mean, they're just like us. They eat, they sleep, they mate, and they defend it. So you can do it. Well, you have Tukaram. He's a grahasta.
Yeah, but his wife didn't reach to that, right? That's what my question.
No, you have to understand. She wasn't able to go back when he went back, but because he went back, she's also liberated. She had to first, feel contrite for having, scolded her husband so many times and tried to discourage him, but he was never discouraged. She couldn't go back at that point, but because he's liberated, she'll be liberated also. Just like Dhruva Maharaj, before the same thing happened. Lord Vishnu came, Garuda, to take him back to Godhead, and Dhruva Maharaj, before he stepped onto the Vimana, he said, "Oh my Lord," he said, "what about my mom?" He said, "I can't. She should come back." And the Lord smiled and said, "She's already on her way back." You understand? So if you get liberated, your wife will get liberated. Or if she gets liberated, you'll get liberated.
As long as you are playing a supporting role to other partner.
It doesn't matter, supporting, not supporting. It doesn't matter. You see, what's stronger, the holy name or not supporting? No, the holy name is stronger. So you just keep chanting Hare Krishna, you follow yourself, and then your wife will follow the leader. You don't follow, then the wife will not follow. You just do the right thing, and you'll see everything falls into place. Krishna will protect you.
Mm-hmm.
Protect everyone, your wife, your children, your relatives, everybody. If you get liberated, 21 generations of your family are liberated automatically. So our real problem in life is, do we want to be liberated? Do we want to be free? Do we want Swaraj? No more kāla, karma, and guṇa. Well, then just engage in devotional service. And the best devotional service, once you're really fixed up, is explained by Krishna in the 18th chapter. He says, "There's no one dearer to me than the one who teaches this Bhagavad-gītā to others." Bhagavad-gītā, 18th chapter. Nachatasman manasyesu kaschid me kriyat pritama. Bhavita nachame tasmad anya priyataro bhuvi. There's no servant in this world more dear to me than he. Who's he? He who explains this Bhagavad-gītā, called the Supreme Secret, to others, to devotees, and pure devotional service. There's no one dearer to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. So this is what we're trying to learn here in this temple. We should be completely dependent on Krishna, completely dedicated to disseminating the knowledge of Bhagavad-gītā to all others that we meet. And besides the fact that we're working, besides the fact we're maintaining family, besides the fact we have to educate our kids, but we can do it because the Pandavas did it, and they were also grihastas. We can't be an idle parasite. We have to be active. And what is our motto? Our motto is, and you can say this every day, just like what are they? The RSS. Every day they pay allegiance to the flag of India, and they chant Vande Mataram, right? But every day we should, of course, chant Hare Krishna and repeat our motto. What is our motto? Now we have a motto. Huh? There you go. They say that's the highest goal of life. So we should repeat it every day. Okay? Besides repeating the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Where is it? 1.37. What is it?
1837.
Yeah, 1.837. That's right. Yeah, I got mixed up there. 1.837. Where did I put that? 1.837. I lost my place. Oh, there it is. Okay. Yes, 1.837. We want to become Sanata. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So all the parents of kids who come to the class this morning, will be at 9 o'clock. I'm going to say something very interesting. I'm not going to tell you what it is yet. So all the parents should be listening today if your kids are coming to the class. Haribol. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.